Well, I tell you, finding a place sometimes that works for videography, I apologize in advance for the high sun, the hat having to be down, and being able to do this. It's not always as easy as it looks, really. Hey guys, I'm Coach, and I sure do thank you for being here this week. This week, we are covering some DIY landscape design basics. We're talking about colors and contrasts and angles and curves and some pro tips that'll help you get your idea out of your head, off the computer screen, and down on a piece of paper where you can make it happen. Remember, we're going to go off into some of the basics that I cover in the book and the course, but we're going to let you in on just a little bit of it here today. I'm sure glad you're here. Let's get started. So the whole point of this video is to be able to take you from that weekend warrior, the gal or guy and couple that, you know, run down to the nursery on a Saturday morning, spend $100 on some assorted bunch of plants, come home and put it in the ground and, you know, just kind of, yeah, weekend warrior, weekend hero, landscape heroes. I'm going to try and take you a little bit today from that syndrome, and there's nothing wrong with it, to a little more professional edge to yourself, a little more thought process for yourself, so that if you're considering a landscape makeover project, you will have it done correctly on paper and in your brain, so that when you're starting it yourself, subbing some of it out, you are going to be the pro on the job site. You know, it is one thing to want to do a landscape makeover, and it is a whole nother thing to actually do it and have it come out looking good. To have it looking like a pro came in and did it, a pro that actually knows what they were doing. And that's what I want to try to impart on you today. You know, some people can do that kind of stuff. They're blessed and graced by a creative mind, a creative eye, and they have a little bit of horticultural knowledge where they can pull it all together, whether they're a construction worker, a nurse, a cop, a fireman, whatever it is, you know, they have that left brain activity. Well, I'm going to impart a little bit of that on you today so that when you sit down and you do your conceptual design for your landscape, you know that you're pulling it from a complete thought and not just a random, well, I think this will look good, or this is what my mom and dad had, or this is what I saw on Pinterest. We're going to do it so according to your location, your neighborhood, your USDA zone, it's going to work for you. So let's talk about some of the basics, shall we? I think more than anything, getting a landscape project off the ground and across the finish line has to do with a couple of two or three things. Number one, desire. The desire to be able to do it and want to do it. The fortitude and physical aptitude to do it. Not everybody can. Not everybody is in a landscape shape, you know. And finally, have something on which to work off of. And that is what we're here for today. Having those couple of things is 80% of the battle. It really is. You can always fall back on hiring a landscape designer. There's no problem with that. But what I'm trying to do here on this channel is to be able to educate you enough to where you're your own designer and you can take that $1,000 and put it into your project instead of the designer's pocket. If you want to start to get your head around what a landscape project entails and to make sure that you do it correctly, check out the website, youryardcoach.com, and look up the free giveaway that I have for you guys, the 15-step giveaway with the accompanying podcast that goes with it. I just give this stuff away. I just do. I want everybody to be able to do something on their own. There you will find step-by-step instructions on how to do it from the I think I want to's to all the way across the finish line it'll work for you very well. And I hope it does. That's why I put it out there. You know, when you're doing a design yourself and you pull something off that you've run by your significant other, you've shown the family, you have gone by the local nursery who has a designer pro on staff and shown them, and they've kind of went, hey, it looks like you got your stuff. Yeah, here, let's go out and take a look at the plants, and yeah, this is what it's going to kind of look like. Yeah, you did a good job. 2, it will not only make you feel proud of yourself, but it's also going to empower you. It's going to make you feel 10 times more confident in what you're about to take on. And that is what? That's 90% of the battle right there. You know what you're doing. You know when you put your head on the pillow every night, dang it, man, you know exactly what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be doing, and you're not going to be hand-wringing yourself on the morning that you're supposed to start. You're going to know where to start. And when you put that first shovel in the ground, bam, you know the direction that it's going to go for that day and all the subsequent days until you put the last little bit of sod down or mulch down or whatever it is. You did it. You did it. So let's delve into a couple of things. We're going to start off with colors and contrast. Colors and contrast is a concept that you have to be able to see with your eyes closed. You have to be able to research it and do some due diligence for yourself so that you know it's going to look good. And where I generally come from and the way I was taught is to be able to start with your dwelling color. Unless you're going to repaint it, your dwelling color is going to be the base color of your colors that you're going to pull from to use in the yard and to contrast off of when you use it in the yard. And here's an example. Say for instance you have kind of an earth tony house. Maybe it's kind of a beige, a tan, a taupey color. You got white trim and you got some stone fascia, especially in the front yard. And those are your basic colors. When you go out into the yard, you're going to kind of replicate that a little bit, or you're going to twist it and contrast it to the point where that tan, now you have a dark colored patio with maybe a complementary band color around it. One idea. Or you can kind of go a little darker tones of your earth tone house and then have a dark band. One I did many, many years ago was a tan house, a very dark tan patio, and then almost a charcoal or almost a coffee colored band on the patio. And then the walkway was the same color as the patio. So when you're dealing with the hardscape situation, you got your patios and walkways, maybe you're gonna have a small sitting wall on the edge of the patio, maybe you're gonna have an outdoor eating area, you know, maybe you can take some of that stone fascia that you have and replicate it on the face of your retaining wall or your sitting wall or part of your outdoor eating area, maybe your outdoor kitchen area. Colors and contrast when it comes to plant material, you can get it from a variety of ways. Contrast generally comes from size of leaf, color of flowers, what is in front, what is in mid, and what is in back of the beds will always have some type. Monochromatic, unless you're really into that, gets kind of boring. So an all green type of landscape is a little, I don't know, to the eye it's like, yawn. So bring in some different colors. I used to always like to throw in a little bit of burgundy with either a flower of yellow or white or something that contrasted very well, and you end up with a little more of a perky looking planting bed. Remember the lawn. The lawn is lawn. It's going to be your highest maintenance thing in the landscape, but many people want to have it. So remember, that is not a dominant feature of the lawn unless you really want that. But to me, I think lawn can be kind of boring. It's kind of like the carpet of a house, you know. You don't get the excitement from the interior design of a house just from the carpet or the flooring. You get it from what's on the walls, what's the architecture, what's the finish and trim. Same thing goes for the landscape outside, so consider that. So also consider your site. If you have relocated because of job or whatever, and you have a new place and you're having to landscape it yourself, consider the zone that you're in, consider the neighborhood you're in, consider the annual environment that comes to your neighborhood. I have had clients in the past that have moved from semi-tropical to the heat of the California Central Valley. And I have had people who have moved from Seattle and Bellingham, Washington, down to the Central Valley, California. And they got to have their spruces and evergreens and hydrangeas and all this other stuff. And I would have to try to curb their learning a little bit and not try to replicate where they were, but where they're at. That's where you're going to design something that is going to work for you. Consider the site that you're at a little bit when it comes to USDA zone. If you move from Florida to Virginia, don't bring in queen palm trees and other stuff. It's just not going to look correct. Unless you're out on the coast of Virginia, then maybe. But doggone it, you know, how cold does it get there in the winter? Are you going to be throwing thousands of dollars into something that's going to get frozen come the first winter? So remember your USDA zones. Your site is also going to dictate how much options you can put in. The larger your yard, obviously the larger your budget, but the larger your yard sometimes will give you more options to fill in those wants and needs lists. For instance, you know, outdoor play areas, large veggie gardens, maybe a dog run, a second garage or a large shed or shop, outdoor eating areas, pools, etc., etc., etc. All depends on what your budget is going to be. Smaller yards, you have to compromise, plain and simple. You can't get into big selections of options when you only have 1,000 square feet or less of backyard to play with. So in the larger yards, you can consider things like outdoor living areas being expanded, maybe even luxury items like private vignettes, especially off the master bedroom where you can put in hot tubs and stuff just for you and your significant. So think about that as well. When you have small places, depends on what you have as far as visual intrusion as well from neighbors. If you're in a single-story home and you're surrounded by two-story homes, you got to be careful and consider the privacy angle. Also, when you do your plant selections, smaller yards dictate smaller plant material. Don't go be getting a October Glory maple and plugging it into your dinky townhouse landscape and expect that it's going to stay in control for a long time. You're going to have a monster there in 5 years, and it's just going to overwhelm everything. When we talk about angles and curves, there are those folks out there that are just rectilinear in their mindset. Everything should be a 90-degree angle or a 45-degree angle, just like their house. From a designer's point of view, there are some of those yards, especially the smaller ones, where that is important. You can't get into a lot of wandering bed lines and lawn radiuses in small yards. It tends to make them look elongated and not natural to the human eye. So consider being your angular if you're in a very small landscape situation. If you're in a larger or very large type of landscape situation, you can get into those long wandering bed lines and deeper bed lines where you can get terracing and other stuff, and it becomes very, very, very easy on the eye. Then your contrasting stuff can come into play too, especially with plant material. Your curved landscapes will always soften the look, especially if you're a fenced-in site that's always probably going to be kind of angular. It'll always soften the whole landscape to your eye. Finally, it's my FITS speech. Number one, does your design fit your budget? There's no sense in designing a $100,000 landscape if you can only afford 5. That's just a waste of time. Number two, it does fit the area. It does complement your dwelling. It complements you and it complements the neighborhood. Also complements as far as the area itself. Number three, does it fit the architecture of your dwelling? Another thing is, does it fit the maintenance level of your desire? A lot of people don't want to take care of what they put in. They may hire it out, or they may just want it to be au naturel. Make sure you design it to your skill level and your maintenance desire level. And did you design it in a way that you can actually put it in? You haven't designed something so complicated or so architecturally challenged that your skill level doesn't meet that, nor does your budget or time frame. So that's the fits part of designing. And finally, after you've brought it all together, maybe you've done 2 or 3 conceptual ones, you finally decided through discussion and communication that you're gonna bring a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one, and some of this one, and that's gonna be your final design. For gosh sakes, execute it. Pull the trigger on this thing. Schedule up vacation time or whatever you need to do and be able to do it. I have seen clients of my own spend hundreds, even low thousands of dollars on very complicated and detailed landscape designs, only for them to roll it up, put a rubber band around it, and it goes in the hall closet. Execute, execute, execute. It will, when you get done with the design, your enthusiasm and your energy is going to be up here. Every day you don't do something about it will be a gradual stair step down to where life takes over again and that thing goes in the hall closet. So make sure you execute it. So colors and contrasts, angles and curves, some of the tips and pointers. Guys, go get an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and doodle and have fun with it. If it ain't fun, it's probably not going to be happening. Do not worry about failure. It may look like crap at the first one. So what? It's a learning curve, and embrace that. It's something new. Embrace that. You are not going to be perfect the very first time. That's why I always suggest doing 1, 2, or 3 of them. Hey, I'm there if you get to that point, you get stuck, email me. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. Thanks for sticking around. Consider subscribing if you got a little something from this, and don't forget to check out some of the other videos. I always have plan of the week, every single week, and I will definitely be there for you should you have some landscaping questions. Hey, I'm Matt. You can call me Coach. Thanks for staying with me until this part. As always, to your landscape success. See you next week. Bye for now.